just a little word of caution out to parents, all parents out there that might be dealing with this. Please, 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 please do not talk crap about the other parent in front of your kids. I can attest, like, where's the tissue? Because the tears are coming. Like, seriously, I can attest it is incredibly destructive when your kids hear that about their other parent from their parent. So please don't do that. It's really important.
Yeah, it's very damaging, definitely.
Hey y'all, Katie here with MOMnation, and welcome to another episode of Our Love Story. We know being in a relationship is hard, so Dyanna Isel, certified couples counselor, and I talk through different tips and tricks to help you navigate your relationship and get through everyday life. While you're here on your favorite podcast platform, please subscribe to our channel. Or if you'd like to visit us on YouTube and watch the video, our handle is MOMnation USA. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hey, everybody, and good morning, Mom Nation. It is I have this new little nickname, Dyanna, that I thought of the other day, and I thought it was so stinking hilarious. And it's been like 6 years that I've been, 6 years, what am I talking about? 16 years that I've been in the real estate industry, right? And I've never thought to call myself Real Estatey Katie. So
I'm so here for it.
So here I am, everyone. It's Real Estatey Katie. And we are back with Q&A with a couples counselor, our love story with our very favorite couples counselor, Dyanna Isel. How's it going, Dyanna?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing very, very good. As we were just talking about before we hopped on here, can't believe that it's like the end of November. Thanksgiving is here, y'all.
Seriously, crazy stuff just flew by.
Yeah. Like I was saying to Dyanna, I feel like we just went trick-or-treating last night. It's like Thanksgiving's tomorrow, Christmas is next week. You know, it's just the way it feels.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. Anyway, before we dive into our topic, and we have an anonymous post that we're going to talk about today. It's a pretty sad one, and I'm super sad for this mama. Hopefully we can give her a little bit of advice and some help, and also to all of you out there that might be struggling with the same thing. But before we hop into that, big shout out to my friends, Lydia and Angel Palomino over at AC Valley, which is a family owned and operated heating and air conditioning company that you can trust. And I can attest because they have replaced, I don't know, guys, Lyd, what, like 2 AC units for me so far. You've redone ductwork in one of my investment properties, or my rentals rather. Service all 9 AC units that I own. Yep, 9. Can you imagine owning 9? It's crazy. But I have AC Valley on my side, and that helps me with the crazy of owning 9 AC units. So thank you guys so much. They are proudly serving residents in the Valley for the past 4 years and counting. I mean, I feel like they'll be around here forever. They are just that good. And so is their customer service. You can visit their website at acvalleyaz, like Arizona.com, to learn more about them. And you can check out their work on social media too. They are at AC Valley AZ. All right, guys. Well, let's hop right into it. As always, we like to bring, group members sort of into this show and really help out our group members and talk about the posts and, different topics and things that come up throughout the month in the MOMnation group on Facebook. So this particular group member posted a little over a week ago, and I was super sad to read this one, Dyanna. I'll read it to those of you who are listening on the audio version. I am writing this anonymously because I know people in this group, and I am absolutely broken and not ready for this to go public yet. I have been married for 20 years. 20 years. I love my husband deeply. We have been together since we were teenagers. However, he's had a few affairs with other people and always swore that he would change and it would never happen again. I recently found out he slept with my sister, Owie, who I raised. I took her and her children into my home, no questions asked, and she is supposed to be one of my best, closest friends. I'm angry at the both of them. I don't know how to function. My children heard us speaking of his affair, and I feel even more broken because they now know there was an affair, but I lied to them and didn't tell them who the affair was with. I just feel so lost and alone, and I don't know how to function right now. Oh, my goodness.
I feel terrible.
I just want to give her a big giant hug.
Seriously though, she needs one. She needs like a million hugs right now. Uh, as always, there's multiple layers to these things, right? I think first and foremost, this mom needs just the support for herself, and couples counseling. Maybe that's on the horizon here, but I really think that she needs an opportunity to heal on her own, and to regain some of that confidence back. Because what it sounds like is this isn't the first betrayal that she's experienced in this relationship. I'll bet this is a big one. Having an affair with her sister is just a betrayal of all betrayals, right? Because it's the family that's betraying her, but then also, her partner, father of her children, that's betraying her as well. So there's a lot of deep work that needs to be done for her to rebuild her confidence back, and to heal and to grieve those acts of betrayal. And when we grieve, it's not just grieving, when somebody dies, it's usually what we think about, but also grieving, the relationships with people that we have, and grieving that maybe they don't look the way that we thought they would. And so there's a decent amount of grieving that has to be done here too.
Can you ever go back in this kind of situation? I mean, I know that's probably a weird question because everybody's different and there's different factors involved in everybody's situation, but like, can you go back after something like this? Not only the multiples, but the fact that it was somebody that they agreed to, that obviously is a close family member, and they agreed to take into their home and care for.
Yeah.
Like, ouch.
Yeah, that's a heck of a betrayal for sure. To answer your question, everyone really is truly different because our values are all different. So our values across the board are not 100% the same. And if a mom's values is to, the highest is to keep the family together at all costs, then that might be her reason to stay. And we can't really make a judgment on what people decide to do in order to move forward with their life or keep their family together. But it really boils down to her values and how she values, herself and what she wants for her life. And there's a variety of other things that I'm thinking of now. Like there's a lot of fear going to be involved too, in losing her family unit the way that it looks right now, and what that is going to look like, and the financial stability, child custody, what that's going to look like. Obviously, it's going to look very different. Partnership, there's going to be all sorts of things that this mom would have to grieve simultaneously if she chooses to terminate this relationship. So there's really no yes or no dry cut sort of answer here. Everyone makes decisions for different reasons.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So generally speaking, there's two routes she can go, right? She can go the route of let's repair and continue on and see if we can figure this out, right? Or she can go the route of, hey, enough's enough. I'm moving on. I got other things to do. Mm-hmm. So what do that's so overwhelming, right? Like when we think about that, oh my gosh, 20 years, guys, to make a giant change, to move out on your own, to do all the things that you need to do to make that split happen, or 20 years of betrayal happening, and now we're staying. And so how do we sift through that? So let's pick the first route. Let's pick we're going to stay. Mm-hmm. What is your suggestion? Because again, what an overwhelming thing to attack. What is your suggestion? Like, what's step one on getting through this and getting to something that's obviously more healthy?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely individual counseling for herself. She really needs that support and a space to just heal with, no judgment, complete objectivity from someone else, just an opportunity for her to grieve and to heal through this, because that might actually be the catalyst for her ultimate decision-making process. So if she goes through individual counseling and she discovers maybe this isn't in line with my values and maybe I do want something different, that might be the catalyst to make a decision to stay or to leave. So individual counseling, I think, would be the best step forward, the best first step forward for her. In terms of couples counseling, again, I feel like that could potentially be something on the horizon, but we don't know anything about him other than the ways in which he has betrayed her. So if his values are completely the opposite of hers, that might not be something they can align on. And if they can't align on those things, couples counseling may not be that beneficial, especially if this is more than a one-time situation.
Yeah, I just, oh, my heart hurts because, you know, she did state in her post just how in love she is.
Well, you know, and I don't doubt that she's so in love with him, but also it's a huge part of her identity at this point, right?
Yeah.
So 20 years of marriage is, and how long they were together before that, I think she said since high school they've been together, like that's a huge part of your identity. You start to, you go into a relationship as yourself, and then you go in as their partner, and then you're their wife, and then you're a mom, and then you take on all these other identities in your life. And sometimes we lose ourselves a little bit in who we were originally, trying to fulfill all those different identities that we now have. You know what I mean? So not only is it like she is very much in love with him, which again, I don't doubt, but I wonder how much of her identity she feels like has been swallowed up through this process.
Well, and then let's take it a step back to what you just said. I think you stepped on something that was super, super important. There is, she's probably been with this man longer than she hasn't.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're getting together in high school, you're what? Probably 16, 17, 18 at best.
Yeah.
Do you really know who you are at 16, 17, 18 at best? Like how much, from what you see from just, you know, your clients coming in and everything, like how many 18-year-olds have a pretty good, solid idea of who the hell they are? I would imagine not many.
Well, I think there's a very strong difference between it. They think they know who they are right now.
We all have those children.
Right? Like, and I think that's fair. Like that's part of our gaining our independence and our agency as adults, is we think we know exactly what direction we're going in and what we want, but adulthood teaches you differently. And then you get this huge slap in the face that, oh, maybe I didn't have my stuff together. Maybe I didn't know exactly what direction I was going in, because we change as people, and we change and we flex. And, you know, as we're in relationships with people, you have to expect that. And throughout those changes and all of that growth, like the proof of the strength of the relationship is going to be, can we ride this wave? Am I cool with who I'm becoming? Am I cool with who you're becoming? And are we still compatible? And sometimes the answer is no. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. It happens that way. But some people are able to ride that wave and to embrace those changes and find a deeper sort of connection and love with each other, because this person is evolving before your eyes and you love them for it anyway.
Right. Big, super huge, giant, colossal point I think you just stumbled upon again. He was also probably a completely different person and wasn't really sure who he was, if he was in fact the same age back then. Yeah. And perhaps, I mean, I'm not making any excuses for this gentleman at all. I don't know who he is, but you know, I feel like there's a certain level of kind of discovery that we go through when we're real young like that, and kind of, you know, trying out different people and different situations, and kind of on our way to figuring out who we are and what we want. I'm not saying this is right by any means. Please don't misconstrue this, but does it make sense that he did some experimentation along the way, just being so young, getting into this relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference between, you know, the betrayal that happened and being open about it is the lack of communication, right? So if that is to be expected in someone's life course, that like, hey, we did get together really young, you're the only person I've ever been with, perhaps, like, you know, I'm starting to feel some sort of way, and talking to your partner and having that open and honest communication seems like what is missing here. Then you guys can decide how to move forward from there. But if someone is just individually making these decisions on their own that they know are going to hurt the other person, that's not showing, you know, the respect or the love for your partner that, you know, you say that you should have, you know what I mean, or that you want to have. And people people change so much, as I said before, and as we go into adulthood, sometimes our past starts to catch up with us too. And so it's not everyone that feels this need to sow my, my wild oats that I didn't get to, in my early 20s. Like, not everyone feels that way. Some people are just perfectly content with that one and done. That's their person for life, and that's great. But not everyone is. And I have to wonder how much of maybe his past or her past is starting to catch up with both of them. And that's also contributing to what's happening here.
Yeah, totally agree. So, and often it's a topic in a lot of our shows, communication. I mean, it's really key. It's really, the bottom line of everything. And I know that there are some couples out there that I personally know them that are cool with, hey, you want to go out on Friday night and whatever happens, okay. And they have that agreement, and that's just the way that it works for them. Wouldn't work for me, but that's the way that it works for them.
Sure. Yeah, the communication is the part that's important.
That's the part. You got agreement, and you don't have, you have agreement without resentment, like real true agreement, then okay,
Those are respected boundaries and expectations in the relationship. If you are both clear on what those boundaries are, then you do whatever works for you.
Right. Totally agree with that. So let's go back to, again, plan A. Let's just say she wants to stick it out and work through it. And she's moving on to individual counseling, which I think is the absolute first step. I think you're 100% right. Now, do you suggest any, of course, it's probably depending on the situation, but do you suggest any sort of the time space apart, hey, maybe you should move out of the bedroom and move into the guest room for a little while and give me my space and let me kind of figure out who I am and do this counseling thing? Do you suggest that, or how do you go about that?
That's a tough one to answer because everyone's level of comfort is different. And we also have kids in the house now too. And according to the post, they're aware that something's going on, that there's been some sort of betrayal happening, and however they understand it and whatever their age level is, because I don't think the post says how old they are.
No.
But this mom, in getting the support and the help that she needs through individual therapy is going to help her feel less reactive so that she can also support the kids through this too, because the kids need supported as well. And so moving out of the room and going to a guest room or whatever, if that's something that she feels comfortable with, that she wants to do, then fine. But I definitely think that there needs to be decisions made from a emotionally regulated place and not a reactive place, because these kids are going to see everything. They're going to absorb everything that's happening, and they need to feel like everything is still okay and everything is safe while mom and dad are trying to figure out, what the future holds.
Totally agree. And do you feel like, I know we've talked about this before, but that's going to start to form their relationship patterns, right? And the way that potentially the way that they behave later in life when it's their turn and they're in that position. So we want to be really, really aware of how we display behaving in a relationship in front of our children.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not asking or saying that people should be perfect and never be reactive. And, there's all these TikToks that show you this is how you should handle it when you're upset. And I'm okay, come on, let's be real for a second.
Let's be human.
Exactly. We're all human beings. We are not flawless. We all have our flaws. It's going to happen from time to time, but the intention to make the effort of knowing that my reactivity is going to have an effect on my kids, and the things that they are going to see is going to have an effect on not only their relationships in the future, but their relationships with us as parents. So we want to protect our relationships with them by being open and honest to an extent that's age appropriate, so that they see what that's supposed to look like, what that healthy relationship looks like. They don't need to know the nitty gritty details of what mom and dad are going to do going forward, but they know something is up. So there needs to be an age appropriate way to tell them that we are working through some things right now. So we're taking a little bit of space, but we both still love you very much and you're both very safe. Those are the messages that have to get across to the kids. And when we're in a very emotionally reactive place, sometimes that's really difficult to do. And I think having that support again, and having mom have that space where she can learn some of those coping skills and practicing really good consistent self-care, she'll be in a better headspace to do that.
Totally agree. And just a little word of caution out to parents, all parents out there that might be dealing with this. Please, 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 please do not talk crap about the other parent in front of your kids. I can attest, like, where's the tissue? Because the tears are coming. Like, seriously, I can attest it is incredibly destructive when your kids hear that about their other parent from their parent. So please don't do that. It's really important.
Yeah, it's very damaging, definitely.
100%. So let's just say she decides she's going to go the other route. Enough's enough. Like, I'm out. It's been 20 years. And this is, again, such an overwhelming thing, from your identity to your physical roof over your head to, it doesn't say in the post if she's, re-entering the workforce or needs to re-enter the workforce, to do this kind of thing. But let's just pretend you've got somebody in this situation in your office and they're like, hey, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't even know what the first step is to move away from this.
Mm-hmm.
How do you typically advise them?
Well, there's certainly some guidance I can provide in terms of, emotionally guiding them to the next steps. So, the legal stuff has to be taken on by a lawyer, right? So I can always say, like, this sounds like a question for an attorney, or this sounds like a concern to ask your attorney about, because I'm not a lawyer. So there's certain things that I can't give specific advice on, but what I can do is helping prepare them for, are you prepared for what a custody arrangement might look like? And, I'm experiencing this right now in practice as we speak, because the holidays are here. And there's a lot of couples or clients that I have that are newly separated, or this is the first holiday that they've had where they're having to do split custody. And it is heavy. It is really, really hard.
Yeah.
So asking those tough questions about, what do you expect that to look like? What would you like it to look like? Providing some perspective on what it could look like or could not look like, without going too far into, hypotheticals, because then we just get to an anxious place and we're worried about things that haven't even happened yet. But emotionally preparing someone for what that, custody arrangement might look like. What it looks like to have your own place and being financially stable on your own, and what that's going to look like, what that's going to require. It sounds like from this post that she's afraid of maybe what his reaction might be, with the kids and things like that, or perhaps the sister with the kids. I don't know if they're still living there. There's a lot of moving parts that are here. But emotionally, to answer your question, emotionally preparing her for what that might look like, what she could expect, some of those tough feelings that she might be running into, and how to concurrently grieve this relationship while adjusting and finding her own independence and getting her own footing in this world on her own.
Yeah, I'm not even in this position, and I'm overwhelmed just like thinking about it, just like what would be my first step. And I've been in, I know a lot of women kind of take a step back from the workforce and they do the kid thing and all of that, which I think is amazing. Not the route that I went. I stayed in the workforce, and even staying in it, I'm thinking, wow, what would I do? Like, what would my first step be? So if I was sitting in your office and I had taken a step back from workforce for a bit and now need to re-enter, what is your advice on that? Is that something that do you have somebody you refer to, or do you kind of have sort of a little game plan for those that need to do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely encourage, like I said, like legal counsel, just because when things get really emotional and really heated, a lot of things are said and thrown around. A lot of threats are made that not saying that this, husband would, but it's not uncommon for him to say, like, well, I'm the one that works. I'm going to be taking everything. And so I'm going to be taking the kids because I'm the one that's, financially stable and all of those things. And the reality of that is that they're all ways to scare someone into submission, into doing exactly what they want to be done. So I do refer to, hey, why don't you get like a free consult or something like that with an attorney to talk about what you are entitled to, because, Arizona is a 50-50 state. So talking about what that mom would be entitled to, what she could be expecting. It's not an overnight thing at all. And so there is a lot of scary things that have to be done. And there's a lot of uncertainty. It's one of the very certain certainties is uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty in going through that process, but that would probably be one of my first suggestions, is to find out exactly what your legal and financial footing is, because that's your security. And your security is your safety. And that is a huge motivator for things that we do. So that's definitely something that I would recommend first. And then just looking for the emotional support and trying to give her some skills to cope and some things to do so that she can grieve and consistently care for herself during this process, because it's very easy to get lost in, emails and lawyer phone calls and, the kids and school and just life, all of those things that happen. It's very easy to get caught up on those things, but you can't pour from an empty cup. And even in the face of all this busyness that has to get done, that still has to be your first priority for you to make it through this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, seriously, all the things that we have on our plate. School is such a huge one. I don't know how, like, my heart goes out to the single parents out there, especially that have multiple children, because I'm married and have my son's dad is super involved in his life and his school and everything. And school is super overwhelming for us. And it's like a full-time job. I mean, today we had to build, which is fun. Like, it was great, but we had to build this catapult, right? And today was the day that you had to turn in the catapult, and it had a writing assignment that went with it. My kid is 8. Like, the parents are doing this, people. Most of it, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But it's really hard. It's really hard to pull all of those things together. Not to mention, society just expects you to be absolutely Facebook perfect. Like, let's not forget that. And, a lot of us feel the need, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, to live up to that. And that is overwhelming, all mixed up with all of this other stuff going along or going on. And, perhaps there's some shame involved, and not that you should feel shame for, being in a situation like this, but
Not at all.
I think it's hard not to.
Absolutely. Well, to a degree, we're worried about aesthetics. We're worried about how it looks from the outside, right? Especially with family. And sometimes we let a lot of things slide in our relationships because we don't want to have those tough conversations, and we don't want people to know that there's trouble, there is something going on. You know what I mean? So shame and guilt are also very powerful motivators, and it makes us do things or not do things so that we don't experience it so much. So you're right. There is absolutely no shame in being in this sort of situation. This is not something that she did to herself or that she asked for, that her kids asked for. But now it's time for her to take action. She posted it anonymously for a reason. So she's got a small part of her has gotten to a point where she's like, okay, what do I do next? So that tells me that she wants to change the system. She wants to change how it's working. So she's reaching out. She's reaching out for help. So a little piece of that shame is being quieted for a minute so that she can make some change.
Right. Well, that's the first step, right? Reaching out, coming to terms with the fact that, hey, this is my situation.
Absolutely.
Any other advice for this mama?
Man, I just feel for her, and I just want to give her a big old hug and let her know that she's not alone. She's not alone. And unfortunately, this, things like this happen, but the difference for her is going to be, what is she going to do about it? And is that going to be to stay? That's your choice. I don't judge anyone for doing anything. Or are you going to leave? Both of those decisions are going to be probably equally difficult. But maybe if you go and sit with someone in individual counseling and sort some of those things out, again, like I mentioned earlier, I think that's going to make her decision-making process a lot easier once she starts teasing some of those things out.
Totally agree. And guys, therapy does not mean you have failed. Therapy does not mean you have something wrong with you. In fact, it is quite the opposite. And therapy means that you're looking for success. I fully believe. And therapy means that you understand that you have some things that you need to work on or can work on to make your experience better.
It means you're self-aware.
Yes, thank you.
You're self-aware. So you know that there are things, and you know that maybe it's just to like sort through things that have happened in your life that you don't really understand why your personality is the way that it is, or maybe it's heavier stuff like in this situation. Like, therapy is not a failure. It says that you are self-aware and you want to make a change because you want to be happier and healthier. And there's absolutely zero shame in that.
Absolutely zero. I totally agree. Dyanna, how can our audience get in touch with you if they want to chit chat and see if maybe hooking up with a few sessions is the right move?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to my website. It's DyannaIselTherapy.com. You can click in the upper right-hand corner. You can schedule a free 15-minute consultation with me and we can get started.
Awesome. Well, Dyanna, thank you as always. I love having you with us every month for our love story Q&A with a couples counselor. Thank you so much for being open and for sharing so much advice and so much of your knowledge. I know we've got, I don't know if you saw me, but I was responding to some comments that were coming in because we are live right now in MOMnation AZ. But we've got some listeners today, and I know that this topic is helpful to many out there. And even one in the comments section mentioned that this is something she's dealing with right now. So I'm so glad that we are able to come together like this on a regular basis and really help our mamas out. So thank you for your time and for spending it with me regularly.
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie, and thank you to our listeners. I hope you guys get something out of this.
Yes, ma'am. And if you could help us, guys, get this information out to the mamas that need to hear it, you can hop on over to our YouTube channel, check out our playlist, Our Love Story, and you can see all of the previous episodes that Dyanna and I have done. And that is at Mom.
Stuff in there.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. Yes, I totally agree. We need to like go back and clip out all the juiciness and start dropping that. So mamas really understand that there is some good information in these past shows. We are at MOMnation USA. That's our handle. Again, you can check us out on YouTube. We are also on Instagram and Facebook, as you know, because that's where you are right now if you're listening to us live. And for those of you who are more of like the audio version, maybe you listen to us while you run or you hike or you're driving in your car, we are just do a search on your favorite podcast platform, and that is for MOMnation Talk Radio. And all of our shows from MOMnation, all the topics that we go over are plugged through that particular, I call it a station, I don't know, podcast channel, whatever. But it's like a station for me because all of our shows go through it. So it's like, you know, listening to the radio. Anyways, guys, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. You too, Dyanna. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.